So I was very proud with how Lear handled the atmosphere. There's a fair amount of people that were watching, and then you've got a couple more dressage rings that are happening, as well as being next to the grassy field, and the weather was a little bit cooler. So overall, I was really proud of this young horse, how he handled himself in the dressage ring. He's still learning to develop, and the biggest thing has been getting his balance on the hind end to kind of lift up the front. And make sure he's braking at the correct spot at the pole, not a couple. Sometimes he likes to brake a little bit further back through his neck. But you can see he's starting to move a lot better, and he gave me a really good feeling in the test. He really was trying hard to listen. Again, there was a lot of stuff going on, and he has quite a lovely canter. Again, the thing is to get him to sit and rock back on his hocks, so he can lighten up the front end and keep him moving forward. And then we drop down into our transition. He kept kind of wanting to veer off of the track a little bit, so I really had to use my inside leg and use my corners to get them to kind of supple through their rib cage. Sometimes he can get a little stiff through there. And he's still working on the connection in the bit. He still wants to get a little fussy. But again, they're always a work of progress, and every little piece of progress is progress. So the test that he had previous to this, he was quite nervous. So the fact that he was pretty relaxed and willing to go to work, I was quite happy about. Again, getting him on the aids for the canter, getting him to move forward, or maybe like a touch more canter. He just looks a little labored. And then the next, we're going to be coming down to our down transition. And here is just where he got a little distracted and stuck his head up in the air, but then remembered to put it back down. So again, he puts in a pretty good walk. We've been working on getting that connection and getting him to work over his back. You want them to kind of grab the bit a little bit from you when you go into the free walk, so you can really get that overstep. And his walk could be better, but it'll get there. And then get him collected back up into the working walk. Again, you want to keep them walking. And he kind of, I think he thought he was done, because I missed the transition, which was supposed to be at K, and I kind of had to like kick him to trot. So overall, he put in a good test. Now, for his show jump, this was quite a bit of atmosphere for him with the trade fair and quite a lot of people. So this is really good practice. It's one thing I really love about Richland, and the fact that we get to jump on grass with a little bit of undulating is really good for the young horses. And he's such a funny horse. When he gets tense, he really jumps big and throws himself up in the air. And it was unfortunate because he would just get in close and just get a little bit underneath it and catch it on his way up, even though he was jumping, way over jumping it. So we've been working a lot at home at grid work and getting him to get stronger. He's much better through the in and out. But again, when he gets tight and tense in his back, that's kind of his reaction, which some horses hollow and get quicker. He just jumps bigger. And then I think it's about after this oxer, which I didn't find the best distance for them, but sometimes that happens. It's good for the young horses to kind of figure out their feet. Now he starts to settle down, I think, this last half, and this was really good for him because people were right next to the jumps. He had to focus, and now he starts to settle down, sit back, and rock back on his hocks instead of just hurling himself in the air. And and he still is just working on his technique and getting him nice and quiet, and finally put in a good jump at the end. So overall I was happy. It was too bad we had 3 rails, but that's how it goes sometimes. So for the cross country, he jumped the first fence pretty well. And you'll have to kind of excuse the videography. They were following me in the golf cart, but we at least got some footage of the cross country. Now as we come off the turn, he starts to kind of back off at all the bigger jumps, and he sees the flowers and he kind of slows down and then jumps. Now you'll see that we took down that flag, and that's okay as long as the horse's shoulders are inside the flags. You're fine at knocking them down. So that was kind of caught me off guard, honestly, that he peaked that hard at something simple with just some simple flowers. But you never quite know when the young horses, as they're kind of getting their mileage. So you have to ride them pretty positive to everything and not take anything for granted. So I tend to ride them with a little bit wider hand, keeping my legs on them and keeping my shoulders back. This is after we had gone through our first set of water, and we kind of roll up on this hill to the half coffin. And as I come to it, I see the distance that is a bit tight to the log, which he does a pretty good job of just slinking quietly over the log. And then he just pinged right over the ditch. I felt absolutely no hesitation. He was just quite happy to jump it that big. It was pretty fun, actually. And then we go on, and he starts to settle in really well now and jump that table. And normally when I go into water, I've been slowing him down to a trot. I actually let him walk and give him a pat, but this was the second water, and I just kind of asked him to kind of keep going, and he did. And we finished up pretty good, and I was really proud of him over this decent sized novice course. He did a really good job.